Good evening, everyone. My name is Olga Haustova, and this year I'm National Director of International Projects of JCI Russia. Every Tuesday I have a cup of coffee with an outstanding JCI or JCI senator. And today I have a very special guest, leadership advancement coach, public speaker, charge to action expert, talent development trainer, and a peace advocate, JCI President 2016, Mr. Paschal Dike. Good evening, Pascal. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, Olga. I hope you're doing well too. Good to be here.
Thank you. The main purpose of Cup of Coffee with Outstanding JCI member initially is to inspire young JCs from around the world with stories of the path of outstanding JCs and JCI senators. So before we start to discuss the topic that we announced, would you be so kind to tell us about your journey in JCI, the journey to become a world president?
Thank you. Well, the journey started a long time ago when I was a student in the university. Precisely, I became a student member of JCI on January 11, 1997. And I typically joined JCI because I had difficulty with my speech. And I thought JCI would be a very good platform to help me improve my speaking ability. And that was why I joined. I didn't join with the intention of holding any office at all. But when I got in, I realized that JCI had more opportunities than I thought about. I realized I could train myself for a turnaround in the total personal development. I realized I can network with people. I realized JCI can give me the opportunity to travel within my country, but also outside my country. And so when I saw all those opportunities, I became a lover of JCI, right? And therefore, I started going from one training to the other, one meeting to the other. I got so much involved in projects, and so JCI became part of my life. And since then, I didn't look back. And one important thing that I must say is friends were very important in my JCI journey, right? Almost all the time, I was never interested in holding any JCI office. But friends will come to me and say, Pascal, we think you can do it. We can support you. So friendship is very important. Network is very important. Trust is very important. And so my friends lifted me up, supported me, and I went from becoming a student member to becoming a local president in 2004, and then became national president in JCI Nigeria in 2008, and then went international. And I had the opportunity, with the support of JCI members around the world, to have served JCI as president in 2016. So that's a summary of what it is. But I want to say it was not a very smooth journey, but it was worth the while, because for each step in my journey, there was a great lesson to learn, something I believe every young person should experience. And JCI is such an organization that I want to recommend.
Thank you. As a JCI World President, you had your theme, which was called Just Act, right?
Correct.
Which challenged people to stop talking and start doing, stop complaining and start contributing, stop thinking too much, but start feeling. What changes do you see in JCI after this initiative was launched by you?
Now. Thank you very much. You know, in 2016, like you said, the theme was Just Act, and we also did introduce the Peace is Possible campaign. But one thing I can tell you, and the changes I saw out of that theme, was it was not just an ordinary theme. It was a theme that I converted into speaking opportunities, speaking engagements. I had some small trainings around the theme. And basically what it was about is, if we continue to talk, nothing will happen until we lend a finger. If we continue to talk, nothing happens until we roll our sleeves and get dirty and do the job. If we continue to talk, nothing happens until we add our voices and join conversations. And you can see in 2016, there were a lot of discussions around peace is possible, but also we ensured that we'll build stronger networks, that people realize that being a JCI member is not just in the name. It is more in the action. It's not in wearing the pin or the label. It is more in what you do. Therefore, as I traveled around the world, I challenged JCI members to leave the JCI mission, to leave the talk. And I saw JCI members taking up that responsibility. And that's why I can tell you confidently that if you ask most young members who were around at the time in 2016, who will remember like yesterday all that happened in 2016. So yeah, JCI members took challenge and started running projects around the world connected to the Peace is Possible campaign, because the challenge of Just Act is to say, do something for your community, do something for your country, do something for those around you. And they were doing things and also visible, practical projects all over the world. And I could not have asked for anything more. So I was satisfied as president that members listened to the challenge, they took the challenge, and they were able to practically implement projects that were far-reaching and that were impactful in the communities.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we announced topic for today: leadership, entrepreneurship, and peace. And first of all, let me ask you, what is leadership for you?
Well, Olga, as you know, leadership is so vast, and a lot of people have defined leadership differently. There are different school of thoughts as to what leadership is. But for me, leadership is defined by two words. Two words define leadership. If you can find those two words in leadership, then you are not a leader. The first word that defines leadership for me is responsibility. Responsibility, what does it mean? It means you must accept whatever situation you find yourself in. You don't pass the ball, right? The other thing that responsibility does is you need to take ownership. When you're given a responsibility, see it as your responsibility. It's not anyone else's. So you don't go blaming people and complaining about what people are doing and what they're not doing. So leadership is about responsibility, is about ownership, is about acceptance, is about care, is about saying, I have been given this responsibility, I must discharge it to the best of my abilities. That's one part. The other word that defines leadership for me is influence, right? As a leader, you must be able to influence people around you. People around you must be able to see not just what you say, but what you do, and that's where they can follow you. And therefore, what influence means is if people have an opinion on a particular thing, and you as a leader think we need to do it differently, by the time you take action, they follow you. By the time you say something, they follow you. When they see where you go, they go with you because you are a leader of influence. So leadership for me is having the capacity to take responsibility, but also influence people in the positive direction. That's what it takes for me.
Yeah. So many of my guests noted that JCI is first of all organization that empower young leaders, right, to create positive changes, and not organization for entrepreneurs. But how can JCI help young leaders to grow as entrepreneur?
Now, the truth is, basically, JCI is a grooming ground for leaders, but also there's an opportunity for you to hone your entrepreneurial skills. So JCI is not exclusively 100% leadership. And when you are a leader, the question you ask yourself, what is leadership? I talked about the influence. What do entrepreneurs do? Entrepreneurs find solutions to problems. They create solutions to problems, and then they can make money out of it, right? They can make profit. But first, they need to be creative. They need to be innovative. So what JCI does first is to say you have to first be a leader. You need to recognize the leadership in you. If you're an entrepreneur and you don't have leadership skills, you cannot be a good entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship comes after you have established that you can lead, because the creative idea that brings about entrepreneurship, the courage to take risks, the courage to launch new ventures, right? The courage to be innovative and find solutions comes from having that capacity to lead in the first place. So when you're an entrepreneur, you start leading yourself. And after leading yourself, you can lead other people. So in JCI, the primary focus, yes, is leadership. And when you are a leader, you can become a good entrepreneur because you must be able to lead in your business. You must be able to lead those who work with you. And that's why the focus is more on leadership, but also leadership that can help you become a better entrepreneur. And that's why in JCI, as you know, we have a wide network around the world. And we have seen JCI members who are very good and successful entrepreneurs because of the learnings and the trainings they took in JCI, because of the networks they have in JCI, because they've been challenged by JCI and therefore becoming leaders. They were challenged to now become entrepreneurs, and they are doing very well. So we cannot take entrepreneurship away from what JCI does. We're saying first, become a leader. Now we're saying creating leaders for a changing world. Our world is changing, and the only group of people that can bring about true change in the world are entrepreneurs. They're the ones that provide jobs. They're the ones that provide solutions. They are the ones that employ people and all of that. And therefore, how can you be a good employer? How can you provide solutions? How can you be innovative if you are not a leader. So when you are an entrepreneur that has all these, then you are a leader. So they go back side by side, but first saying focus more on the leadership, and when you have it, it helps you to become a good entrepreneur, basically.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and because we can't deny that majority of members are entrepreneurs, and
Correct.
many people join for networking and opportunities to find business partners. But why then the accent is still on leadership and not on entrepreneurship?
Why the focus is on leadership and not on
Yeah,
entrepreneurship, right? That's the question.
yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. That for me, leadership comes first, the entrepreneurship follows. Because every entrepreneur is expectedly a leader.
Mhm.
Expectedly. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're already seen as a leader. But how can you become a leader when you have not gone through the rudiments of leadership? Because when you're an entrepreneur, you're leading in business. Whether you're leading in business and politics, it simply means you are leading. And leadership, Olga, is not about title, it's not about position, it's not about being a CEO. That you are the CEO does not necessarily make you a leader. That is only title. Leadership has to do with what you do with the title, what you do with the position. Do you bring positive things out of it? Do you lead people in the right direction? Do you have the right results, the successes? Are people able to follow you? Someone did say something that there's a big difference between a boss and a leader. Now, you can have an entrepreneur who turns to become a boss, but is he a leader? They say bosses command people, right? Leaders give a hand. They're two different things. Bosses command people, leaders give a hand. So whether you are a leader in your own business or another business or in politics or a non-profit, what is important is how do people perceive you? Do people follow you? Do they trust you? And these are things that must also go along in entrepreneurship. If you have a business, that business must have integrity. And therefore, a leader that has integrity can run a business with integrity, right? A leader without integrity cannot run a business that has integrity. So what we're saying is first, hone your leadership skills, identify yourself as a true leader. And then when you become an entrepreneur, then you have people who will follow you. Like I said, responsibility. People will see that you are taking ownership of the business, right? And then you can influence them. When you say something, they do. Where you go, they go. When you say, look, we need to do this, they say, leader, we are willing and ready to go with you. But how can you be a successful entrepreneur if you are not a leader? So leadership first, the entrepreneurship follows.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you on that. And as a JCI World President, you traveled in more than 80 countries. Um, what was the most memorable journey you took, and what different styles of leadership I think while you were traveling you saw different leadership styles, right, in countries. What was the most that impressed you the most?
Now, there were quite a lot of memories, things I still remember very well about my traveling around the world as JCI president. But for me, the big things honestly don't matter. I met a lot of political leaders. I met a lot of very important business owners, captains of industry, very important people. But for me, the most impactful of all my travel was when I met people who were underserved, when I met people who were underprivileged, when I met people who struggled to live, when I met people who had nothing and wish they had something. And for me, those are the things I remember more. I traveled to a number of countries, and I was in the Philippines, and I went to a place where some young people who were not well to do, who didn't have all the opportunities in the world, but I saw great smiles on their faces. I saw that they were young people who, even though were going through challenges, but were very happy people, happier than even people who had everything, right? So that is something I continue to live with. And I saw JCI, the Philippines, taking responsibility to want to help these people, these children, to go to school, right? To train them, to provide opportunities for them. And therefore, I saw leadership out of JCI, the Philippines, taking responsibility. And does JCI do? We fill in the gap where government and businesses are not able. We go in there and we fill in the gap. So JCI, the Philippines, filled in that gap to say, look, government has a lot doing, a lot in their hands, but as non-profit, JCI can help in education. JCI can help in providing training. JCI can help in ensuring that people who are underserved and underprivileged can live better lives. And for me, that was the most memorable, or one of the most memorable, so to say. So I saw leadership from JCI the Philippines that made every effort to give those children better lives. And as you know, education is one of the best gifts you can give to any kid, to any child. And that was the focus, was in supporting those children to ensure that they can have education. And that was for me a demonstration of true leadership, where you take responsibility, right? And for me, it was a defining moment, something I'll continue to remember for many, many years.
So we can't avoid COVID topic, right? And I first of all wanted to ask how it is in the country where you live in Nigeria now, the situation with
COVID-19. Yeah, Nigeria, we have heard, and we're still having our fair share of COVID-19. The pandemic is ravaging countries, destroying lives, collapsing economies, as you know, and bringing sadness, agony, and pain. And in families, businesses are going under. It's tough, and it's the same thing here in Nigeria. We went into lockdown for 2 full months, and then we started with what we call partial easing of the lockdown for another 2 months. So 4 months, most businesses could not perform. So it's big, but and like I always say, there is light at the end of the tunnel. One thing is the cases we recorded here are not as huge as in most countries, but also because they are not doing as much tests as most countries are doing. But the good thing is our numbers are not very scary. I think the total cases in Nigeria right now is still under 55,000, and we've recorded less than 1,000 deaths. Well, every single it's a death, because every single life matters, right? But the point I'm making is it's not as bad as what we had expected. Here in the country, we had expected it was going to be so much. Maybe by now we would have hit 300, 500,000 cases and maybe 10,000 deaths, but we are not anywhere near there. And therefore, we are very hopeful. And in Nigeria, we are very resilient people. We are tough people by nature. And so we prepare our minds for the worst. But again, because of the effort of government, because of some steps taken by some very responsible citizens, we have not experienced a very huge spike in that. There are still a couple of citizens who are not respecting protocols, instructions, who are not doing what they're supposed to do to stay safe. And we are adding our voices to the conversation and saying to them, this is something that can wipe away a whole family. This is something that can wipe away a whole city. So we must take this seriously and ensure that we have a role to play. When the government says stay indoors, stay in. When they say wear a mask, wear a mask. If they say sanitize your hand, you sanitize your hand. If they say maintain social distance, you maintain social distance. It's not because they want to punish us, it is for our good. So yeah, businesses are opening up again. In Nigeria, local flights have resumed. International flights will start again on the 29th. So yes, there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We just hope we're not going to have a second wave. The numbers are still there, but again, it's not spiking. And we're doing everything possible to ensure that we can control it. And our hearts continue to go out to those countries around the world that are having very serious cases. And we hope that the world will get out of it. And we will, for sure. We will, because the human mind is made for times like this. And we will overcome it, I'm very sure.
Yeah, before we continue, I want to pass some highs to you, because I see that guys from JCI India, JCI Pune are watching us. Then there is Achinoi Uchena from saying greetings from Nigeria. And we also have a guest watching us, Edson Kadama, Secretary General. You know him probably. He's also watching us right now.
Good to
Hi,
know.
everybody. Yeah. And I wanted to ask that, yes, COVID-19, it affected the world and it affected JCI as well. And how do you think, what is the biggest challenge of President Itai Maniare he's facing nowadays?
Okay, well, some persons have described President Itai as a digital president, a Zoom president, Facebook Live president. He's been called different things, but I know that President Itai would have loved to travel the world, connecting with our members, embracing our members, having handshakes, having a cup of coffee and dinner, going to communities, interacting with people, being part of projects. He would have loved to do that. But what I can tell you is this challenge, even though it has slowed the president down from traveling, but it has also opened the horizon of the president. I mean, we are regularly in touch. This COVID-19 has also asked JCI the question, how far can you go? It has asked JCI the question, how creative are you? It has asked JCI the question, how innovative are you? And JCI has risen up to that. And JCI has said, we are young people, we are creative, we are innovative, we love challenges. And I can tell you that President Itai, almost on daily basis, and I'm not kidding, almost on daily basis, is like one Zoom meeting, one digital meeting, one online meeting, connecting with more people around the world. I'm sure he has connected more people, online, much more than he would have done if he was traveling, even though he would have loved to travel as president. So now, some people might see it as a challenge. I don't see it as a challenge. I saw it as an opportunity. And I said to President Itai and I said to Lord that history will remember him for a long time, because I don't think JCI have had this kind of experience as long as I've been a member for 23 years. I don't know those who were members before. So President Itai's year is a special year. It's a year that we will remember, a year that JCI was challenged and we rose to the challenge. And that's why I'm happy that under the leadership of President Itai, JCI has launched JCI Rise, and which is an initiative to encourage rebuilding of economies, businesses, lives, and all of that. And imagine if COVID-19 never happened, maybe that kind of idea would never have come. So it's something that we need to take as long as possible, because COVID-19 and the effects will still be with us for maybe another 3 years, another 5 years, for some people maybe 10 years. So JCI Rise will continue to be relevant. And therefore, I do not see COVID-19, yes, originally as a challenge, but it has also opened up another vista of opportunity, which I believe that President Itai and the leadership of JCI rose to the challenge, taking advantage, and today they are reaching a lot of people all over the world. You won't believe it, that we have signed many agreements with other organizations, even though we are not able to meet. There has been a lot of connections, and meetings with other non-profit organizations with JCI, even at this time. So while people see it as a challenge, JCI saw the opportunity and decided to tap into it. And I can assure you that after this year, 2020 presidency will be remembered for a long, long time. So that's my thinking. I think it provided JCI a great opportunity to be more creative and more innovative. And I'm proud of what President Itai and his team have accomplished so far.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think that this year will go definitely into the history. And I personally hope that President Itai will be like first and last president who would have no ability to travel. I hope that next year everything will goes back to normal. And before I continue, Edson Kadama corrects me. He says that Olga, you should read. Well, Ekukale Olga Pascal Obina Dike. It means thanks, Chief Pascal, for everything you do in Yoruba. What he is telling us about? Like, can you explain what it is about? What you did in Yoruba?
Now, Edson was extending greetings to me in one of our local languages called Yoruba. He is saying thank you, Pascal, for all you do. He's saying thank you very much, basically. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So about traveling, first time I met you. Well, I've been at the European conference in Tampere, and I saw you on stage there. And then after that, you traveled to Russia for the first time ever. And you came to, first time ever I saw JCI president in Russia. I think you were the second, because first was Scott Greenlee, million years ago in 2007 maybe, and then you came to visit us. And what was your impression on Russia and JCI Russia?
Thank you, Olga, and I love this question. But just to say that before I came to Russia, I think President Roland in 2010, I think, I have to double check. I think he also came to Russia. I need to double check. But from the time President Roland came in 2010, and there was 5 years, and no other president visited Russia. And so I decided myself I wanted to go to Russia, because for me, JCI is about the whole world. JCI is a global community. It's about connecting members. It doesn't matter where they are, right? And to be quite honest with you, one of the concerns I had was if my visa to Russia was going to be approved, expeditiously. And here in Nigeria, I must tell you, the conditions to getting the visa to go to Russia is not easy, right? It takes a long time to get all the documents together. And so I was a bit concerned, but kudos to JCI Russia. You guys made it easier. I got my visa the same day to go to Russia. And I was so excited. It was like a miracle, And when I went to the embassy of Russia in a capital city in Abuja, there were people who had applied for visa 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before. And I came the same day and I got the visa, and they were all surprised. And I said, this is the beauty of JCI network, because I know there were calls from Russia to the embassy. I know there were a fax message sent. I know there were emails written to the embassy in Abuja here saying, this is JCI president. He wants to come to Russia. We want his visa expedited. And that happened, right? So I felt really excited and I looked forward to going to Russia. And when I came to Russia, I was really, really impressed. I didn't know that JCI Russia had a long history. So when I met with senators and they told me about what they've done and all of that, I was really marveled. And I went to the parliament and I saw, a former world chess champion, who was in the parliament and who received me so much and said a lot of wonderful things about JCI. And I felt really proud. So I felt at home. At some point, I told my friend from Korea, Sangube, who was also traveling through Russia, who stopped by and said, I wish I had one more day, to spend in Russia. So for me, it was a wonderful opportunity with all the sessions we had. And I see that there's a bigger opportunity in Russia. I see that there are greater potentials in Russia because Russia is a very big country, right? And I look forward to that time when we have JCI spread in all parts of Russia. And believe me, it's going to be like a boom. So yeah, it was a great impression. I enjoyed my 2.5 days in Russia, and I'm looking forward that someday, for some reason, I'll come back to Russia. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you so much. You are very welcome anytime. And if you ever will have, again, problems of getting visa, please just connect us and it will be.
I will let you know for sure.
And maybe you heard that JCI Russia came up with an initiative, and on September 17, we will have first Euro-Asian online business conference. We decided to do that because Russia has a very unique place in the world. We are partly in Europe and partly in Asia. That's why we came up with the idea to create this business forum and to invite great entrepreneurs and JCs from Europe and Asia to panel sessions and master classes. And have you heard about our initiative?
I have heard about it, and truly I'm excited. When I saw it for the first time, I said, this is what I call building a bridge, right? Yeah. Building a bridge. Because like you said, Russia is partly Europe and partly in Asia. So you are a connecting dot between Europe and Asia. And again, Olga, believe me, if we did not experience COVID-19, maybe this Euro-Asian conference would not have been very exciting. It's becoming more exciting because of the situation the world is in as of today, and a lot of people will be willing to connect with that. So I saw it as a great initiative. When I first learned about it, I was truly excited, and I said to myself, why not? And that is again a show that JCI Russia has taken advantage of the JCI network, right? And even though it's called Euro-Asian Conference, you have people from all over the world connected who have identified and significant interest in joining. From Africa and the Middle East, you have people. From the Americas, you have people Europe, Asia. So it's like a mini World Congress, though focused more on business, that is happening online. And so whether you like it or not, that is one huge step. And the question is, what do you want to take away from it? And after the first edition, Medin edition, what next? So we need to begin to think about, how to make sure it is continual, or that it continued over time. But it's a great initiative, and I congratulate JCI Russia. I'm looking forward to it. I want to hear the news and the outcome and the results. And I can assure you that after that, a lot of new businesses will be vetted, a lot of connections will be made, network will become stronger, and people will begin to understand themselves more. And don't forget that JCI is political. We're not involved in politics, right? So while our different countries do what they have to do, we have the responsibility to connect citizens of different countries. have responsibility to build bridges, right? So that on our own part, away from politics, we can continue to tell anybody who cares to listen that the world is one, humanity is one. It doesn't matter your color, how you look, where you come from, your religion. We are one people, and through this connection, that's the opportunity to show it.
Yeah,
I believe.
thank you so much for your kind words. Actually, yes, we called it first JCI Euro-Asian Land Business Conference because we would love to continue and have a second and third and others. And uh, we came up with that idea a long time ago before COVID, and we were planning to do it live in Moscow. But COVID made its corrections, so this time it will be virtual. And next year we hope to gather everybody in Russia. And by the way, for those who still think that it's a struggle to get visa to Russia, I can say that since October 2019, the procedure for 45 countries, I guess it's Europe and plus some others, we can just Google. It became much easier to apply for visa. You just apply in an electronic way, sitting at home basically, and in a couple of days you just get your electronic visa for 8 days for free. You just like you don't have to pay for that. So it's getting more easier and easier, yeah, to get to Russia. So people shouldn't be afraid of that. And I hope to see everyone next year in Russia. And I see that our senator and past president and most outstanding JC of, if I remember, 2008, Andrei Skinsky joined us. Hello, Andrei. Maybe I was here. I'm sorry. Well, coming back to our topic, I know that maybe not, it's aside of the topic. I know that currently you're working on your book, right? So what is going to be about?
Okay, Olga, thank you. I really don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but because you've asked the question, first let me say that my life is full of stories. My life is full of stories. And I come from a very small community where there were no opportunities of any kind. At some point for me, I didn't know there was a bigger and a better world out there until I truly came to the city and then started dealing with JCI. And so the first book that I'm putting together is a chronicle of my experience from when I was a little boy to when I came to the city, joined JCI. And it's something I believe will inspire young people to understand that it doesn't matter where you were born, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Those are not enough excuses not to succeed. I tell people that circumstances will always challenge us. Situations will always push us. There will be obstacles on our way. But when you understand that you can also control circumstance, that you can succeed. If you understand that being extraordinary is nothing other than the ordinary person taking further steps to succeed, that's what it is. And when people talk about being extraordinary, it's not. Extraordinary people are naturally born. That's the truth. You can become extraordinary through what you do, not by who you are, not by the way you were born. And therefore, we all have the capacity in us to get better. We all have the capacity to improve ourselves. And so that book will focus on some of the challenges I had, some of the experiences that I went through, and how I was able to get through them, right? So that it can inspire young people. That's what that first book will be focused on. And of course, there will be a second book. I haven't talked much about it, but that second book will focus more about like JCI journey specifically, and what I recommend as a way for young people to, even though they live in local communities, become global impact makers. Because the world is a little village. You don't have to become the president of your country to make impact. You just make a little impact where you are. And JCI provided me that opportunity to go around the world and see how people are making impact. So I want to share some of those experiences, but also crown it or cap it with some what I call leadership nuggets that I have seen that I believe will help anyone who plans to take up leadership positions in the future. So yeah, that's the area of focus at the moment.
Well, I will be looking forward for your book, and I think it would be very interesting to read. And I remember when I first met you, I was your interpreter, yes, in St. Petersburg. Maybe it's hard to believe to somebody, but yes, I was. And
Okay.
I remember your story. You were telling your story, how you became president, and the story how you joined GCI, and what you did for your local community. That changed it. That there was some criminal gangs around the city, and you together with one university, you gave them opportunity, these young people, to study, and it changed their life completely. And that impressed me that so much that I still remember that story. And when young people trials who want to join GCI ask me what is GCI about, and how people became president, why they became president, I think I tell you this story that after such deeds. Well, maybe you can tell something about the most interesting and life-changing experience that you had during your GSI career.
Well, quite a lot, honestly. And if you have to go back a little to what happened in my little town where I came from as a university student, there were a lot of issues. And one thing I believe in life is if you sit down and watch, nothing happens. And as I say that if the good people refuses to do something, then of course the bad people will take over the town, take over politics, take over leadership, and they will make laws that the good people will have to obey and respect. And it was exactly what was happening in my town at the time. There were people who decided to hold the town hostage because they thought they had the authority to dictate and decide what happens. And the town was drifting a lot. So we mobilized 32 university students, 29 male and 3 ladies. And we went to the town and decided to go around and say, no, we will not allow this happen anymore. We want to take the destiny of our land into our hands. And we put our lives at risk. We did things that a lot of people thought we shouldn't have done. But we said to ourselves, if not us, who? And if not then when? But I'm happy that we were able to take responsibility, like I said, and influence a lot of senior members and fathers and mothers and very important people in the community who listen to us. And that's where the influence I talked about the leadership, comes in. So that happened. But with respect to my moments in JCI, I like to say this all the time. When I was going to run as president for JCI Nigeria, we had an election that was the longest election in the history of the organization, right? And after I was elected, I had a responsibility as a leader to bring everybody together. Because usually, what happens around the world, when you win an election, you tend to focus on those who think supported you. But I'm not an advocate. I'm not someone who has that thought. I'm not part of that school of thought that says winners take it all. When you win election, just concentrate on your people. The first step I took was to bring people together. Even those who didn't support my presidency, I had to bring them to the board. I had to go around trying to reconcile all parties, all groups, and everybody, and all of that. And it paid off because those friends who didn't support me for presidency, some of them did that because they didn't like me. They did it because of the information they had. So they acted on information, not because they didn't want me to be president. So I understood that could happen. And so as a leader, I had the responsibility to bring everybody together. And that was what I tried to do. And I can tell you, I had my 365 days in office peacefully without any problems. And we took a lot of great initiatives. And what that's actually taught me is when you are united in purpose, when the leader, has an open mind, then people will work with you. There is a saying that people are not willing to give you a hand until they see your heart. People are not willing to give you a hand until they see your heart. So what I did was to show my heart to my colleagues who were serving with me at the board and say, look, I'm here as your friend, much more than president. So deal with me as your friend. Have confidence and trust. Let's discuss open-mindedly, freely. And that was what we did. And we had a fantastic year and all of that. So I remember that vividly. It was a very challenging moment, but I made a decision that I was going to make it, something beautiful. And it was beautiful. A lot of people were surprised because some people were expecting that something was going to go wrong, but nothing went wrong. We finished the year, and it was a fantastic year as far as we remember. And yeah, for me, it shows again where a leader will have to deliberately, consciously say, this is what I want to do. I want to do the right thing. I want to reconcile people. I want peace. I want to make progress. And if you do that, you can always succeed.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think what you did was an amazing job. And I see that our national president, Sergei Shatov, joined us. Hello to him. And I want to ask, can you please give the advice to people who want to take their leadership skills to the next level?
Yes. Now, I went to the academy in Morioka, Japan in 2007. And the theme of our academy was Bushido. And I took time to study that. And what was Bushido? Bushido simply was a code of conduct, moral conduct, that the samurai were expected to observe. And I tried to connect that to contemporary, recent days leadership and ask myself the question, how I wish leaders today will understand and imbibe those codes of conduct. So my advice to young people is, if you want to succeed as a leader, you need to imbibe those codes. I may not have all the time to explain it, but I'm just going to mention them, right? So the first one is benevolence. Benevolence simply means when you see things not going right, feel distressed, do something. Basically, don't talk. Feel distressed, do something. It's about empathy, right? The other thing is courage. In fact, for me, courage is the biggest virtue of leadership. Courage lets you do the right thing. It doesn't matter who is God. Courage lets you say, look, it is risky, it is dangerous, but we have to do it for the sake of those we lead. So courage. The other one is sincerity. A leader must be sincere. What you say in the morning must be the same thing you say in the afternoon, the same thing you say in the evening. The next thing is that a leader must be polite. That you are a leader does not mean you should be disrespectful to those you lead. In fact, the leader should first respect before getting respected. You don't ask to be respected, you have to respect first. The other thing that I want to talk about is honor. You know, the honor is very important. That's what drives your integrity. That's what defines your integrity. A leader must be a leader of integrity, right? The other thing I want to talk about is rectitude. Rectitude is having the capacity to make a decision on certain things. I call it the power of resolution. There are people, leaders, who find it difficult to make decisions because their friend is involved, their family is involved, their associates are involved. A leader must make a decision. It doesn't matter who's involved. The other thing is what I call self-control. A leader must have self-control to say, no, I don't want to do this, and stay with it. Or yes, I want to do this, and go ahead to do it. The biggest challenge we have around the world today in terms of corruption, in terms of mismanagement, is because leaders cannot exercise self-control. And once you have leaders exercising these virtues, then of course you can lead well. So my final advice to people who want to take the leadership career further is to observe this code, and that way you can truly become a leader.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I see the question from our Senator Andrei Beskinsky. It's his traditional question. He asks everybody when he joins. What is the most, well, I think you partly answered this question before, but maybe Andrei joined us later. And for those who join us later, what is the most memorable place that you visited as JCI president and as a member of organization?
As JCI president, I visited a lot of memorable places, a lot. Beautiful places, fantastic places. But like I said to you, sometimes big things don't drive me. What drives me is something that is little but of great impact. And that's why I use the example of what I experienced when I went to JCI, the Philippines. I saw a true effort to give young people education. I saw true effort to help young people become, useful in the future. So that was one of it. The other one was when I went to Cambodia. Was it Cambodia? Yes. Where we had the Senate golf meeting, and three national organizations came together again to provide education to young people in the local community. I have passion for education, so anything that has to do with bringing young people out and opening up their horizon is always of great interest to me, because the only way to free the mind, the only way to free a young person is to give him or her education. And so those were two very memorable things I will never forget, because for me they were far-reaching, they were very emotional for me, and I think that that is when we talk about the greatest gift of nature. And when we say service to humanity is best of life, for me that's typical and practical example.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pascal, for amazing time together, the interview that and the discussion that we had. And the last question that I want to ask you before we finish, because it's been an hour that flew so fast with you. Can you please give your message to young leaders and young JCs who are watching us right now and dreaming to become president?
Thank you, Olga. First thing that I have to say to the young people is, if you do not believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you. So don't wait that someone will come and identify you. You need to first identify yourself. And the first way to identify yourself is to be active, is to be willing to learn, is to be willing to help people. When they ask you to get involved in projects, do it. When they ask you for help, be willing to help. When things going right, don't wait for someone to ask you to help. Go ahead and help. That gives you visibility, right? And in helping, you learn. In helping, you sharpen your skill. In helping, you get help. In helping, you derive some sense of fulfillment. That's what happens. Then the other thing is, you must be good at what you do. Don't make excuses. One of the biggest challenges young people have is they make excuses. When you ask them to do something, they tell you it's a job, relationship. We all have had jobs, we have relationships, and we still have businesses, but we have to do what we had to do when we had to do it. That's very important. So young people must understand that you have a responsibility to do the right things. And the other thing I want to say to young people is, don't procrastinate. What you can do today, don't wait tomorrow to do it. That's another mistake. I tell people, tomorrow waits for nobody. In fact, tomorrow waits for those who prepare for it today. So if you want to be part of tomorrow's winners, you have to prepare today. You cannot prepare tomorrow. That's not possible. And then I want to say to you, you have to live your life of a life of impact. There is a saying that no man, no woman has any right to come into this world, live through it, exit, without justifying the reason to have come in the first place. So we all must leave legacy. And the only way to leave legacy is look for something that you will be remembered for and do it. And when you are no more, people will remember you. I say finally to young people, don't allow circumstance to control you, control circumstance. When you go to a place, don't get influenced by them, influence the place. If you join a new group, don't wait for the group to influence the group. If you meet some new friends, don't wait for the friends to influence the friends. In your family, influence your family. In JCI, influence people. Bring positive influence, positive energy, positive ideas and skills that can change the world. That is the only way to succeed. And when you have this, people will report you out. People will identify you. And even when you're not willing to serve, in some like I was not willing to in some situations, people will say to you, my friend, you can do it, let's support you. And then you will get to where you're going.
Mhm. Thank you so much for your inspiring speech. Thank you so much. And I want to thank the audience for watching us, and want to remind everybody that today, at our cup of coffee with an outstanding JC or JCI senator, we had a very special guest, a leadership advancement coach, public speaker, charge to action expert, talent development trainer, and a peace advocate, JCI President 2016, Mr. Paschal Dike. Thank you, Pascal, so much for finding time for me today, and for amazing conversation that we had. Thank you so much. And I also want to remind everybody that we have a cup of coffee with our standing JCI Senator every Tuesday. And our next guest will be René Dumal, current JCI European Senate president. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you for the great job you're doing. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye bye.
So thank you. Thank you so much.